welcome the Midpoint parents too in the back. This is no performance, Lord, I pray it's worship. All I own is afford. I'm not chasing, here we go. And I'm not chasing feelings, that's not why I'm singing. You're the reason for my song. And I only wanna sing if I sing with everything, if I sing for you, my King. Oh, and I can't imagine why I would do this so for high, 'cause it's all to lift you high. Perfection, just my soul's attention. All I have is what I give. It's more than a song that lasts a moment. I live a life of honest worship. If I'm here to sing, then I'll sing with purpose. All the praise and the beauties of it now. If I sing with everything, if I sing for you, my King. Oh, and I can't imagine why I would do this all for high, 'cause it's all to lift you high. Whoa. All right, would you all get low with me?
I was going down, thought it was for the count. Then I found your love. I had wandered off, thought I had gone too far. Then I found your love. Fear I used to know can't stop me anymore, 'cause I found your love. When I feel alone, I have a place to go, 'cause I found your love. Praise was the day
a seat. Love seeing you. Parents, welcome to Parents Weekend. If we haven't met before, my name is Greg. I oversee the 7th and 8th graders here on Sunday mornings. We're thrilled that you came. So guys, I only have one announcement today, and we have one event that's epic that's coming up at the end of the month, and that is Frenzy. That's right. It's gonna be bananas. It's gonna be crazy. But hey, you guys know this, that we're not just an entertainment company at all. We want your friends and you to experience the uncontainable love of God as we do these events. So like we talked about at Summer Peak, interest, invest, and invite. Take that to heart. Who can you take interest in to then invite to this coming event? It's gonna be awesome. Today, we're starting a new series called Reality Show. It's all about family, so that's why parents, you're in the room. You guys know this, but whenever we start a series, we don't want to just pray. We want Jesus to be the very center of everything that we do, and we want to become like him as a result. So, would you join me in praying and really sealing this for God to lead us during this time? Would you pray? Father, we're grateful each and every single day. You give us your full attention, your full heart, your best. So this morning, we want to give you our full attention, our full heart, and our best. We want to anchor this reality in your reality, that you're the truth, you're the king, you're the way, you're the truth, and the life. So lead us in your love, and we call to listen. We love you because you love us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Midpoint. I'm pumped to be here with you students, but also you parents back there. This is awesome. My name is Matthew Plunkett. I'm the director of Midpoint. I get the opportunity to teach these crazy people all the time, but I love you. All right, I got deep love in my heart for you. Like Greg said, we're going to be talking over the next several weeks about families. And what it made me start thinking about were family photos. All right, now I don't know if you guys have to take family photos and you send those family photos as like a Christmas card or something. Maybe some of you are like annoyed with it because your parents want it to be just like really awesome. And mom's like, smile bigger, turn this way, do that. And you're just like exhausted at the whole family photo process, right? I mean, oftentimes we're trying to get the perfect family photo to send out to other people where other people will look at us and just be like, wow, this is amazing. What awesome family this must be. But I thought, what if the family photos that we took and actually sent out to people reflected what was actually going on in our household? Okay, what if that actually happened? In fact, I found some of these photos. Here's the first one. This is clearly just a crazy family, just sort of a zany, weird one. They're just goofy and nutty and maybe some of you have taken a family photo like that before, and it's been sort of like that. This next one gets really interesting. This guy is clearly doing something, like maybe this represents your family. You're like, yeah, my dad is always like, come over here, get out, or whatever. And it's really intense. Like, what if our family photos were actually like that? This next one is just kind of weird, all right? There is you can see the dummy that's up there, right there. It's kind of crazy. Many of your parents were around in the 80s and probably had hair like those people, right, parents? The next one is just straight up strange. Like, I don't exactly understand it, okay? Like, what are these people, like, did they just go to the zoo and get a bunch of monkeys? Or, what happened exactly? I don't know. But it's really strange and really crazy. And, as we think about families, it got me thinking about reality TV, okay? Because there are so many reality TV shows nowadays, right? If there's cameras that follow people around when they have dangerous jobs or dirty jobs, right? There's competition reality shows that, quite honestly, focus more on the drama than they do the competition. And nowadays, there's all these reality shows that are focusing on families, right? And there's crazy family families everywhere. In fact, your parents probably remember one of the very first reality shows called The Real World that was on MTV. They may remember what that was like. But there's all these families that are being followed around nowadays with their reality shows. And often I think that we love these shows because we're seeing the craziness and the dysfunction that is so over the top with these families that it makes our family look a little more normal. You know, we're like, oh, at least we're not that bad. But, if we're really honest, okay, if there was a camera in our households for the rest of the world to see, there would be some pretty interesting stuff that would come out if we had a reality TV show within our own families, right? But here's the deal, like living with people is very challenging. There's so many challenges. Oh, hey, dude. What's up, man? Living with people, there's so many challenges with living with people. In fact, just think about when you spend too much time with some of your friends. Like if you're like me and you had a friend that spent the night like 2 nights in a row and you get sick of each other pretty quickly, right? They start to annoy you a little bit and you start to fight or whatever. So it makes sense that within your families, when you're around each other so much, that there would be tension, right? And so what do we do when things get difficult in our households, right? When the temperature rises and we get heated at each other, when our families become fractured or broken, what do we really do? How are we supposed to react? Well, if you look at the Bible, all right, there are many families that television companies these days, all right, could have a lot of reality TV shows with, right? If there were cameras back then and television shows, there would be some TV shows about some of these people in the Bible. In fact, one of these families is called the Israelite family. All right, and it started with this guy Abraham, and then he had a son Isaac who married Rebekah, and they had 2 sons called Esau and Jacob. Now, these 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, were actually twin boys born only minutes apart. All right, Esau was born first, so he was the oldest. Raise your hand if you're the oldest out there. Okay, yeah, a bunch of you. And then Jacob was born, okay, just a few minutes later, and he was the youngest. How many of you are the younger sibling out there? Yeah. Now, I have a brother, Bill, that many of you guys saw last week that was sitting in the back. And my brother, Bill, I'm the older brother, and he's the younger brother. And I don't know about all of you older siblings, but I'm pretty sure that all younger siblings get preferential treatment from their parents, don't they? Right? Like, they get away with so much more. Like, here's how it was with me. Okay, like, I would get in trouble, and my mom would be like, go to your room, right now. And I'm like, ah. And then my brother Bill would get into trouble, and she'd be like, that's okay, Bill. Just don't do it next time. It's like they baby the little ones. It's ridiculous. Well, here's the deal. Back in the day of Esau and Jacob, it was actually the older sibling that always received the preferential treatment. Okay? Because whoever was older would receive the family's inheritance, their birthright, okay? They would have lots more money and power and decisions, okay? And oftentimes, it would make the younger sibling get pretty jealous, right? Like, imagine if you were a twin like Esau and Jacob, and just because you were born mere minutes later, you received much less blessing, much less money from your family, much less power, just because you were born a few minutes later. That's pretty frustrating, right? I would be really frustrated, right? Well, this jealousy brought tension within the relationship of Esau and Jacob, and they would fight. Right? And how many of you, be honest, know what it's like to fight with a family member? All right, you do it sometimes. Parents, that happens, right? We got it. We got this down. Well, trust me, we're going to read a little bit about this story, and you're going to see some epic family dysfunction here. Genesis chapter 25, starting in verse 29. It says, once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished. Right, verse 31, Jacob replied, first, sell me your birthright. And then 32, look, I am about to die, Esau said. What good is my birthright to me? So let me pause right there. So Jacob is wanting to get Esau to sell him his birthright. He's like, let me have the inheritance, all this great stuff, and I'll give you some stew. That doesn't sound like the best trade in the world, but somehow he does it, right? Because we look at verse 33, and it said, but Jacob said, swear to me first. So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. I mean, Jacob must be a pretty tricky guy. All right, he must be super tricky. In fact, anybody in here have a family member who's tricky or deceiving at times? You know, like maybe your little brother or older brother like lied to the parents. Like, that's not how it happened. Okay, I didn't punch him straight in the face. Who cares if they have a black eye? He just ran into a door. You know, this is one of the things, right? I mean, this is what happens, right? But here's the deal. Jacob took such advantage of his brother, and it actually gets worse. All right, the parents are even involved. The parents are misleading each other. It's crazy. Later, Jacob actually convinces his father Isaac to give him his blessing and power. In fact, in Genesis chapter 27, verse 37, the father Isaac tells the older brother Esau, he says, I have made him, Jacob, Lord over you. I want you to imagine if your parents ever told you that they are making your sibling Lord over you. How horrible would that be? That would maybe be the worst day of your life. You know, like they are your Lord now. You have to bow down to them and do whatever they say, right? So Esau, this older brother who has his younger brother being Lord over him now, gets pretty upset. And later, Esau actually vows to murder Jacob. Okay, now you think that your family is bad. This is a pretty dysfunctional family. All right, this is like level 10 dysfunction here. And here's what's happened. All right, here's what happens. Oftentimes, we compare ourselves to other families. Right, we think about our own family. We know it has dysfunction. We know that there's crazy things out there. But we see other families, and if you're like me, you get a little jealous, right? You get jealous of some of these families. I mean, I was, one of the families that I was jealous of when I was younger was the Gaines family. And it was Tyler Gaines was my one of my best friends. But here's what happened, okay? My parents split up, okay? My parents got a divorce. And his parents were together. And I just thought that was unfair. I was kind of jealous even of their family dynamic. But also what would happen, their family had more money and more things. Like I was always getting like hand-me-down stuff. And I remember one year literally for Christmas, they got jet skis. And I was like, what? That's what Santa puts under your tree? Like that is absolutely crazy. This is just intense at times for me, you know, and I would get really, really jealous. Okay. And, you know, there was this thing when I was a kid, our church had these church directories. And some of your parents will remember this, but some churches had church directories. And what you would do is, I mentioned taking family photos earlier. Well, your family would take a photo at the church, and then they would put that family photo in the church directory. And while it was in the church directory, there would be like a phone number underneath it, and people could see who you were as a family and, you know, get in touch with you if they wanted to or whatever. And, you know, Tyler's family was like this awesome family. I mean, they had this great picture, and they looked all together, and it was great. Well, but because my parents were divorced and because they went to the same church, okay, what we did is we actually took two different photos. All right, so I took a photo. It was me and my brother and my mom, and then it was me and my brother and my dad. And it was kind of awkward, quite honestly. Like both of these photos were just side by side together in the church directory. It's like Carol Plunkett and family and James Plunkett and family. And it was sort of weird. I was like, clearly we are different. Clearly we are weird. Like, why do we have to be this way? Why can't we be more like, you know, Tyler Gaines' family? You know, in fact, my brother did this really, I thought it was kind of a funny thing. Maybe some of you have done this where you've sabotaged a family photo. And my brother stuck his tongue out, you know, during the family photo. And my mom had no idea that he did it until the directory was printed. And the entire church saw, not only do we have two separate pictures, but my brother's sticking his tongue out and just looks like he's crazy, you know, during that time. I mean, here's the deal. No matter what, though, no matter how fractured you think that your family is, what I want you to understand today is that it can actually get better. All right, God can do amazing things in your family. Right? Because, listen, we heard about how dysfunctional the family of Isaac, Rebekah, Esau, and Jacob were. All right, well, a little later in the Bible, in the book of Hebrews chapter 11, the entire chapter is dedicated to declaring this kind of like faith hall of fame. All right, so some of you know like the Baseball Hall of Fame or the Basketball Hall of Fame. This is like the Faith Hall of Fame is Hebrews chapter 11. And it lists a lot of amazing people who have some of the best faith. And God is like putting them on a pedestal and saying like, these people is who you should be like. We're talking like the Bible superstars, all right? Like superstars of the Bible. People like Noah and Abraham and Moses were all in here, which was really interesting, but guess who else? All right, look at Hebrews chapter 11, verse 20. It says, by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. You see, even a dysfunctional, fractured family as bad as theirs, God transformed them for the good. And that's good news for all of us, because even in moments when we think our family can't change, God will do amazing works. He can do amazing works to help us. In fact, in order for God to do this in our lives, we have to move. All right, we have to move. And I don't mean like actually move, like you got to get out of Colorado. I also don't mean like you have to run away from home. You know, like some of you, I know that you've had that thought before in your mind, like I'm going to run away from home. I can't handle this family anymore. In fact, I did that when I was a kid, and it was sort of crazy. I was packing my bags, and my little brother thought that I was serious, and he was just like bawling, crying, like, no, don't leave, this is horrible. You know, and I'm like, I'm out of here. I can't handle you, Mom and Dad. And my mom literally said, fine, go, get out. You know, like you just move away. And I was like, fine, I will, you know. And so I like did my thing, and I made it as far as across the street, okay? So I'm across the street, and I'm sitting on this sort of sewer, and I'm just stewing, you know, just like, oh my gosh, who do they think they are? I had zero plan, okay? I didn't know what I was going to do. I had like a really odd bag of clothes with like 4 pairs of socks and 1 underwear, and like, you know, it was just weird, you know, no toothpaste or anything, but I had this bag, and I'm just sitting there, and then, you know, about 10 minutes later, my mom opens the door and is like, hey, honey, you want some dessert? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in, let's go, you know, and so I just get ready, and it's over. I'm not, when I say that we need to move, when we have dysfunction in our family, and I say that you need to move, or you need to do something else, I'm not saying like actually move. Okay? It's move from a place of annoyance, of embarrassment, and dislike, okay, to a place of compassion. Move from embarrassment to compassion, from annoyance to compassion, from dislike of your family members at times to compassion. Here's the deal. Compassion simply means that you care about someone and want to make a difference in their life. That's all compassion is. You put yourself in their shoes. Right? You think from their perspective. You take action and help them improve their situation. Right? In fact, when your family feels fractured or dysfunctional, my challenge to you is this. Move from a place of frustration and dislike in your family situation to a place of compassion. In fact, we should follow the example of Jesus because he was very compassionate. The Bible is filled with stories of how he was compassionate, and I just want to point out one of them right now. This is in Matthew chapter 15, verse 32. It says, Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days, and they have nothing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, or they may collapse on their way. All right, so you see that Jesus has compassion here. And here's what happens. As he's having compassion, okay, what it causes him to do is to meet that person's needs. In this case, it just happened to be food. So he's like, all right, well, let's get them some food. But in some cases with your family, it could be that they're angry, and it would be just worse for you to be angry back at them. You know, maybe part of compassion is when your family's going through a difficult time that you're just listening to them a little bit. Or you're entering in with them. You ask them to do something fun or whatever it is. That's compassion. All right, Jesus has this amazing compassion. And I think that we should follow this example. And we should be compassionate for our family when it feels fractured or dysfunctioned. All right, this is what it means when I'm saying move to compassion. I'm saying move from judgment of your family to listening. What if when they did something and it wasn't right with you and you didn't really like it, instead of just judging them and, you know, just having evil thoughts in your head, what if you just paused and you listened? Who knows what happened that day? Who knows what happened that day at work with your dad or your mom, or at school with your brother or sister? What if when things were happening and it got heated, you just kind of paused, didn't judge, but you just listened? What if instead of giving up on them, you just would pray for them? Right? So when your family does something and it causes you just want to roll your eyes and give up on them and say, whatever, what if you were compassionate like Jesus and you just started praying for them? What if instead of ignoring your family, running to your room, slamming the door, turning the music up as loud as you can, what if instead of doing that, you engaged with them? Right? Maybe you walked away and got your cool, took a deep breath, and then you went back to them, and your little brother who's being pesky all the time and is annoying you, what if you engaged your little brother and showed him compassion and said, hey, you want to play this game with me, or you want to do this thing? Or you could do the same thing with your parents. You can listen to them, you can pray for them, you can engage with them, because here's the deal. Every family is fractured. So choose compassion like Jesus does. In fact, what I'd like for you all to do is stand up with me right now. All right, stand up, get up. I want you to stand up, and as you stand up, I want you to start thinking about some of these moments that you've had with your family that are kind of dysfunctional. In fact, I want you to bow your heads and just close your eyes. And as you bow your heads and close your eyes, I want you to think about a moment that happened. Quite honestly, maybe it was even this morning on the way to church, where there was some kind of fractured moment or a dysfunctional moment. I want you to think about this moment for a second. And I want you to think about what it would look like for you to go from wanting to be angry to maybe listening or praying for them. And with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I want to be really honest and admit to you, this is a lot easier said than done. So much easier said than done. But what I think that we can do is not only follow the example of Jesus, but remind ourselves that Jesus has blessed our lives, that Jesus has had compassion on you, that Jesus has had grace on your life. So with your head bowed and eyes closed, I want you to think about a moment where maybe Jesus has had compassion for your life. Maybe you deserve judgment, but the truth is he died on a cross for your sins. And he brought you freedom. And so in this moment, what we're going to do is, as you think about that and you lean in on his example, we're going to sing this song called Grace to Grace. And as we sing this song, my hope is that you experience his grace and it pushes you to grace with your family members. Father, help us in this moment. Help us to be with you and sing to you.
If love endured that ancient cross, how precious is my Savior's blood. The beauty of heaven wrapped in my shame, the image of love upon death's frame. If having my heart was worth the pain, what joy could you see beyond the grave? If love found my soul worth dying for, how wonderful, how glorious, my Savior's scars, victorious, my chains are gone, my debt is paid, from death to
How powerful those words this morning. Can we just give our applause and praise to our God who sent his son, his beloved son, to die on the cross for us? And you know what? It just reminds me, when we were up at camp, that was such a strong moment when we were talking about the cross and that meaning freedom, and the grave and us seeing Jesus surrendering his life. Is that powerful to you guys? Do you feel that? Just the weight of that in this room? And so I want you to know, when we have those camps, when we experience Jesus like that, it's not a camp alone experience. What happens at camp does not stay at camp, but it happens here as well, because God is moving in our lives in these times of worship. Amen, church? So what we do here is we just honor the surrender and the sacrifice that Jesus was on the cross. And so we're just gonna celebrate out in this room with this last song. Are you guys with me on that? All right, let's sing it together. Here we go. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 No one. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord? Our
That was awesome. I love worshiping with y'all. And so what I want you to think about is, what if the next time you're tempted to have an eye roll, of your parents or your siblings, what if instead you just kind of took a deep breath, reminded yourself of what Jesus has done for you and the compassion that Jesus has had on you, and use that example and then lead with compassion with your family? My hope is that you talk about this in your small group, because I know it's so much easier said than done, which is why it's so important that we connect ourselves to the Father with worship and prayer and reading our Bibles so we can remind ourselves of this. So you're going to talk in your small groups about it. Parents, what I want you to do is just stay right there for a minute. Stay in the bleachers. I'll let you know what to do here in just a few moments. But all of you are going to go to your small groups. All the girls are going to stay in here. Guys, you're going to go across the hall. Have a great week, everybody. Okay, parents, if you will, while the students are in their small groups, you guys are we're going to have our own little small group together, all right? In fact, Greg Novinsky is right there waving his hand. I want everybody to follow him. We're going to go right next door into the choir room. So go ahead and follow Greg, and we'll meet over there in just a couple minutes.